Throughout the course of his life, Emperor Palpatine has seldom been significantly challenged in either the political arena or the field of physical combat, as his skills in both corners are largely unmatched to this day. As the greatest rival to the Jedi Order, a gifted manipulator and talented duelist, his greatest fears and most dire threats to his rule could often be addressed by his own incredibly diverse skill set. Political rivals that stood in his way could be manipulated, much like how he had Chancellor Valorum removed from office to make way for his own election. And in the arena of combat, even the most gifted warriors would fall victim to his blade, leaving Sidious seemingly utterly undefeatable. Throughout the war, he balanced each of these skills with precision and grace, giving off an aura of invincibility. So then, this raises an important question. Why did he come to fear one particular individual who had formerly served as his greatest asset? Who could cause Palpatine to grow weary and cautious during the dying days of the Republic despite him having all of the power he could need to defend himself? Well, today, students of the Force, let's dive into why Palpatine grew fearful of none other than his very own apprentice, former Jedi Master Dooku. First though, according to our records, many of the Force attuned that have visited our archives have not yet joined our order. So if you've been enjoying the daily openings of holocrons, be sure to reach out and force crush that subscribe button. Now, let us begin. Recently, we released and produced a video on why Darth Sidious feared Qui-Gon more than any other Jedi. But while Qui-Gon Jinn was the greatest threat that the Republic could offer him, his fear of Dooku was driven for very different reasons. We do encourage you to check out our video on why Palpatine feared Qui-Gon though, but let's discuss why his fear for Dooku was so different than this. This fear first arose when the Clone Wars first began. After Darth Sidious ultimately caught word that Dooku was able to duel Master Yoda in Attack of the Clones to a standstill on Geonosis, while Dooku ultimately had to endanger the lives of Obi-Wan and Anakin in order to escape the wrath of the Grand Master. The duel was fairly even throughout the course of its duration, and there was no overtly clear victor. He was able to keep pace with the Grand Master of the Jedi Order despite crossing 80 years of age when this duel took place. And although Dooku did not outright defeat Yoda, this was still an incredibly formidable feat of power, one that Darth Sidious noted carefully. At the time, Sidious was considered to be the most powerful Sith Lord that had ever existed in Star Wars history, but he had yet to test his skills against Yoda in physical combat, or any Jedi of note for that matter. It wasn't until the Clone Wars commenced that he began dueling more regularly, defeating Savage Opress and Darth Maul on Mandalore, and facing off against Mace Windu and Yoda as the Clone Wars came to an inevitable close, just to name a few notable duels. In truth, Darth Sidious never believed that he would ever truly need his lightsaber all that much, and was far more focused on his gifts that could be attuned to him through the dark side, rather than skill with a blade. However, hearing that his apprentice was able to stand his ground against one of the best Jedi duelists of the era, and possibly in galactic history, was incredibly alarming to Sidious, and it caused him to reconsider his own abilities as a duelist and the very distinct possibility of Dooku overwhelming him with the blade. Many of the Jedi did not stand up to Sidious's prowess in lightsaber combat, but his true threat to the Jedi Order lay in his manipulation tactic, meaning that he didn't need to be better than most Jedi in lightsaber combat, although he wanted to be. For the duration of the Clone Wars, Sidious did not need to fight Jedi in single combat simply because he had already manipulated the war to his liking, and even if Windu had killed him, he still would have eradicated most of the Jedi, rupturing to the brink of collapse regardless of whether or not Sidious lived or died. Dooku, however, stood in a very precarious position in regards to Sidious, as he was one of the only individuals to have direct contact with the Sith Lord, while still full well knowing that Palpatine was the Dark Lord of the Sith, the Chancellor, and the creator of the war. This meant that now, in addition to political leverage, Dooku also had physical power over his master. Dooku, as the public face of the separatist movement, had all the political influence that he needed over the Confederacy, commanding the droid army at will and gaining the public support of these systems who followed him devoutly. Sidious, however, was not a public face of the separatist movement, and his political influence was only applicable to the Republic, a republic which he was about to crumble. As for the separatists, Sidious could only speak through Dooku and had no direct power. meaning that his manipulation tactics wouldn't work on the Separatists without Dooku's assistance and being the voice. And furthermore, it meant that if Dooku ever decided to turn on Sidious, he would have to fall back on his prowess in lightsaber combat, something that he had always assumed would help him defeat his aging apprentices. Before the duel between Dooku and Yoda on Geonosis, Darth Sidious believed that he was the clear better of Dooku and Yoda at the same time. However, he was more unsure about the Grand Master. This is why it was so shocking for the Sith when Dooku met Yoda on even ground. While he knew that Dooku had once been a paragon of the Jedi Order and one of their most talented swordsmen, he also had reason to believe that Dooku could no longer achieve this height of his former glory in his age. After abandoning the ways of the Jedi to attend to matters on Sereno and learning the ways of the dark side combined with his advanced age, it stands to reason that Dooku's political power would be seen as more dangerous than his physical power. But now Dooku had both. Sidious always believed that Dooku was a feared combatant and was more than capable to dispatch nearly any Jedi of the Order. Again though, Yoda was different. Upon discovering that he had nearly defeated Yoda, Sidious's entire worldview was brought into question, and Sidious was left to wonder whether or not he could actually defeat Dooku as easily as he had formerly believed. This innate uncertainty was also augmented by the inclusion of Asajj Ventress to the battlefield, as Dooku took to training this gifted Sith assassin as his own. As the war waged on, Dooku and Ventress began to build a personal connection to one another, which soon began to resemble the very same relationship that he had once shared with Maul all those years ago. Contrary to popular belief, Darth Maul was actually taken under Sidious's wing while his own master Darth Plagueis was still alive, under the guise that Maul would be used as a public assassin and field operative, while the two true Sith Lords remained relegated to the shadows. Maul was expected to be a field agent in order to preserve the identities of Sidious and Plagueis, acting as a red herring for the Jedi Order and a scapegoat if anything were to go wrong. However, Sidious's plan changed, and upon assassinating Darth Plagueis, he had the idea of promoting Maul to his formal Sith apprentice. However, this would never happen, as Darth Maul being cut in half by a Padawan Obi-Wan and Darth Plagueis' death were nearly at the same time. These same characteristics, though, began to surface with Dooku and Ventress, which was a clear red flag that Palpatine immediately recognized, and was the driving force behind his directive that Dooku should kill Ventress. By driving a wedge between them, he stalled Dooku from potentially overthrowing him until the war was over, though he still could not be certain. While we know that Sidious was a match for Yoda, and even won their duel in the Senate chambers, he still did not know this for certain until the time eventually arose for him to test his skills against the Jedi Grand Master. He believed his talent to be equal to Yoda, if not better, but this was still strictly hypothetical following Dooku's duel with his former master. In fact, even though Sidious formally won the confrontation in the Revenge of the Sith novelization, he had to put his lightsaber away in order to defeat Yoda, meaning that many of Sidious's fears were actually correct, and that Dooku may very well could have been the superior duelist to Sidious, and may have even gotten lucky. Dooku again was far too close to the plan of Darth Sidious, and when he saw that Dooku could meet Yoda on even ground, this struck him with intense fear. In the end though, what Sidious ultimately predicted would come true, and Dooku grew tired and weakened by the culmination of the Clone Wars, ultimately leaving the door open for Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, to defeat Dooku in single combat as he grew tired and weary. Something that many people fail to note about Dooku is that he is clearly far more powerful in Attack of the Clones than he is in Revenge of the Sith, as is dictated by the Revenge of the Sith novelization. And even Yoda senses this same change in his former apprentice in Dooku as the war wages on. As Anakin increases in power, Dooku decreases, and it is clear that Sidious's goals will still be maintained as he can now clearly overthrow Dooku in single combat. This doesn't change though the fear that he had for his apprentice for some time following the events of Attack of the Clones. But now, my friends, I would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on Dooku and the fact that he met Yoda on even ground and that they very nearly met at a stalemate? Do you think that Darth Sidious would be able to overthrow Dooku if they ever came to blows? Or do you think that Sidious's fears against Dooku were very warranted? As always, my friends, thank you guys so much for watching the channel. Hit that subscribe button, and may the Force be with you.